they run over a cliff. Don't follow the herd. That's my advice to you.
How more people on that attention? I can go back and see if they're okay. LY it says is wasn't sure if this was already covered, but why is the number 7 so significant to Moorish science?
Because it is more science. But when you're talking about 7, you're talking about this particular solar system. So it's Moorish science just happens to be the fact that it's Moorish culture, but it actually involves all humanity. So don't look at it as being separate just because someone says a Muslim, Christian, Jew, Buddhist, or atheist. It matters not. If you're in physicality in this atmosphere at Midgard, Circle 7 is the Earth culture. Whether or not beings are aware of that, or cognitively, is another issue. And so you're dealing with the 7 ruling planets of this particular solar system, and it has more to do with also planets that you call the human have actually been on. Now that's the truth. The concept that humanity only dwells at Midgard is a misconception. These are other discomforting things to the average person who really doesn't know the walk of man that's going to be exposed to you in the very near future. And so a lot of what we would consider or what you're being told is new technology is actually old technology. And for the most part, a lot of it will be brought back to you because we have to clean up, and they can't continue to play these games of suppression by necessity of development. And of course, because the energy of the transits of the sun and the transits of these 7 planets within and through the Futon belt, so do some research on the Futon belt, the energy that's hitting the planet now will not allow the darkness to continue anyway. So it's not because of someone's philosophy merely, or our discomfort, or we're angry that the demons did this or the demons did the other thing. The deal of it is that their BS Kedorf can't exist under the Aquarian energy lights anyway. So you're talking about the forces of nature. So when you're talking about Circle 7, you're talking about the 7 senses, but they only told you about 5. We're not arguing that. We told you about the other 2. Not that you didn't know it. We're just bringing it together. So look at the chamber of the head, etc., because it's going to come to you anyway. So people with big mouths like me won't even matter because it's going to come to you by nature, and that's the truth. So I'm giving you a little bit, but you'll recognize it on your own values now. And it's sort of like some of the things we talk about is sometimes we get boring doing it because it's sort of like, like you're talking about a coming storm, and now you're still having a conversation and you're in the storm. Well, we're in the storm. And it's sort of like that. So we're trying to find different angles to wake up the few who aren't woke because of love and because we want to make things better for all of us. Because what we project for the rest of those who are less asleep, we project for ourselves. So even love, in a way, while selfless, is also selfish. So if you love others as you love yourself, it's because we all are one. And so when you look at even the closeout of the Quran, it says what? This is the uniting of Allah. This is the uniting of the Holy Quran of Mecca. But the Holy Quran is not just the book. The Holy Quran is the reading, the knowledge. It is the collective. Even that's a metaphor, you see. It is the whole of things, actually. And this is again why a lot of times so that people will take a less spooky view or not a view that's loaded with biases. We would always tell them, if you want to have really concepts of it, study cosmology, study Kabbalion, which is derived from Sabbath culture, directly derived from Gnostic philosophy, because that's what it really is.
Okay, here's an interesting question. What is the link of summer solstice to Father's Day? If it
Well, now you would be talking, that would be anthropomorphic in its angle, talking about the sun. And so the sun is also the father. So you're really talking about mother, governed by the moon, who's the gateway, who brings the physical body. And you're talking about the projective energies of the sun. And this is like when you're looking at cosmology, they would give the sun what you would call a masculine energy or projection, just like you have, although all things in nature have masculine and feminine energy. And so the sun is symbolically as he. This is why the sun, or the great sun, is referred to as he, and the moon is referred to as she. Is given a gender. So even when you look in your Hermetic law, you're dealing with the law of gender. So you're talking about the projection and the positive and the negative, the projective and the recessive, the receiving and the giving, etc. The balance, the yin and the yang. That's all that means. And so when you're dealing with the energy of the summer solstice, the sun coming in or being at the part of the earth where it is most active, then that, of course, deals with Ptah, Peter or father. That's what it means. That's all. It's only a metaphorical angle on the workings of nature. Back to cosmology. And of course, those of you who know, when you look at even the word cosmo in cosmology, cosmos means universe. So who is Allah? Allah, the follower of the universe. Allah is the follower of the universe. We know that Allah is a feminine name. So you're dealing with projection and energy and gestation and projection. So you're looking at the workings of nature. And so you have the crescent and the star, which is also called the cosmos. You see how the storyline is? And so when people look at it just from an anthropomorphic, they're not looking necessarily as the cosmological nature or the Femirides angle. And people need to know about both of them so they can look at it more maturely and more responsibly, and comprehend that for children, we'll show them, a brother on a camel, which means a ship of the desert. And then you'll see a pyramid in the background, and then you'll see the crescent and the star in the sky, and they'll say, "Oh, the Star of Bethlehem," etc. So, but adult will look at a chart and look at the angles of the different planets, and also from a bishop point of view, the positions of the different planets in aid or support of the different constellations at certain cycles of time. So there you got your bishops. And there you have what? Your cardinal points. So your cardinal in the great circle, because church means circle. So the great cardinals would be at your primal nodal points, your north node, south node, east and west. There you go. And so you take it out of its anthropomorphic, which is for children, take it into its cosmological, and now you're grown up. Now, you talk about Santa Claus, but you already know Santa Claus is the Big Dipper. It's like that. You take it seriously, not serious, really. And of course, intelligently, you guide your life according to those energies. The same way, like, say, for instance, like, because I'm very hot-blooded, right? So, but I actually never liked, like skin out type stuff like that, except when I want to get some sun, get some vitamin D. And so if I'm wearing a long sleeve shirt, stuff like that, I'll get really hot. In the same way, I wouldn't think about wearing a long sleeve shirt and a coat and putting on a wool scarf and putting on, a pulley. Now in this weather, same way I wouldn't do the opposite like this in the winter. So you look at it like that. Let's keep it simple. Study the workings of nature. Look at it put in an anthropomorphical story for children. then look in the calculations of the energy outputs, the waves, the ups and the downs of what you call the cosmic waves, and a mathematical ephemerides calculation of that for the purpose of agriculture, for feeding, for the purpose of traveling, dealing with the weather systems, the exposure of certain elements and food stocks around the planet in different time zones or locale zones, in different nodal points, in different life forms that may grow either in acidic soils or alkaline soils based on the operations of the elements in nature. There is religion. That would be in ephemerides form. So when you look at the Bible, the Quran, the different holy books, the Torah, etc., the Uaspi, the different books. Also, remember, all of them have a cosmological construct. And when you already, and this is really interesting, when you already know that the priest can't play you anymore. And this is why they really get upset when we share this information with people, because it kills all their clubisms. It kills all of their Jesus funding that they've been spending with Birth for Butt at the Bahamas every year. See, and this goes for all of them, not some of them, all of them. Because once you recognize, like they say, God's everywhere, and he makes all your sandwiches, and he loves everybody, he give you a peanut butter sandwich, and when you really understand that we come together in organized bodies, politics, because we're social beings. But the reality, you don't need to go someplace to find Allah. Duh. First, you come through a womb. Duh. And then you on earth. Duh. Then the air is here. It's everywhere. However, because we're social beings and we construct organizations and clubs and institutions for the purpose of supporting, our civilizations and preserving knowledge and stuff like that. However, don't let it become so big that it makes you forget the simplicities of life. And that's the truth. And what the priesthood has done is made people forget the simplicity of life and made their lives complex. And they've actually made the masses into serfs to serve them, using God, Jesus, Allah, whatever versions of their perceptions of what they call divine source, as a purpose not really helping humanity, but actually to rape humanity. So we're not condemning people at all for being religious in the misconceptions that they have, but we're more concerned with liberating people from the misconceptions promoted by the priesthood behind the names of divine, etc., that actually have nothing to do with a lot of the corruption that the priesthood has created. And the fact that the masses keep losing should be your message. If you were so right, how come we keep losing?
Question. Thomas Marie said, is it true that presidents are chosen when they were younger and they knew years before Trump was president that he would be?
Well, Trump was requested, to be honest with you. If you want to look at Trump, if I would make an analysis of Donald Trump, I would look at his relationship to his father and his father's relationship to both Tesla and the takedown of Tesla by the Circle Church and Chancery members who run some of what you call your three-letter organizations of the Popes of Rome that have been operating in North America that you're familiar with. Look at that from that perspective. But Trump, on another level, was requested by generals and admirals who have been deposed under the, say, maybe all of the administrations operating of the praetors, all the praetor organizations, because remember, presidents are praetors, operating since Kennedy's assassination, were those who are still living. Many of those who are still living actually requested Trump to run. Trump didn't run on his own initiative. And there's a lot more that can be told. Some things are not said because the dark priesthood is still operative on many levels, including shutting down communications. That's being dealt with too. However, so Trump didn't come up and say, "Oh, I want to be president." He was requested. So keep that in mind. So Trump is a face for other faces that you do not see. However, if you use your intuitive mind, you can read all of them for the most part.
So, was that though a yes though in terms of the presidents in
Oh
general?
yes, and most of the praetors, who have been holding that praetor office, in some ways are related. Bloodline. That would include Hitler's daughter.
Merkel?
Yeah, Hitler's daughter who birthed Obama.
Oh, the other one.
Oh yeah, the other one. But it doesn't mean that some of them weren't trying to send messages or weren't trying to help, because some of them were. However, people need to understand that they are all praetors. They're all assigned. They're all prepared. They have one main, and they usually have a couple of backups in case of contingencies that were not necessarily calculated. But for the most part, all of them are put in place. And there's no such thing, and never has been anything in the nature of quote unquote free elections operating at North America. Never. Never, 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 never. This is another reason why the divine national movement is necessary, and also to help people start using their intuitive mind so that they can start governing their own lives and get rid of the demon operations that have been governing on not even beyond the U.S. corporation operations and the secret treaty of Verona and all of the other operations in Austria and Switzerland that have been going on in the name of country, when in fact their operations have always been dismantling nations, not helping nations. They've been going to and fro the earth, devouring nations. That's why they don't teach nationality. You hear in the Bible and the Quran, you hear always preachers talking about, and God raised up nations, and He said, "This is my nation," and then there'll be nations against nations, but you won't see them teaching nationality, do you? Well, there's green people over here, and then the purple people over there, and then the light-skinned green, purple, orange, white. Doesn't matter what color you are, people. They've been playing a game on these people for so many generations that most of the people, their brains have been stagnated. And this is, again, why the illustrious prophet Novadrali set up the divine and national movement. He said religious and national movement. He said divine and national movement. He said learn the truth about your nationality and your birthrights. He said the half has not been told. If I told you everything, you'd go back to sleep. But guess what happens when you really start studying? We thought we've been had. Had is an understatement. And this is, again, why when you get into this information, what people choose to call more science is really the walk of humanity. That would be, to be more blunt, that would be more proper. It makes a lot of people angry. Why? Because the vampires have been living off the virtues of humanity for quite some time, and knowledge and enlightenment will end it. That's why people are upset. This is why they will go through all the trouble, pay trolls, do everything they can, try to block this information. And this is another reason why we always try to, while sharing, try to keep it down to earth with the people, so they don't get caught up in this spookiness. Like, oh wow, this is really so deep. It's not deep. It's very, very simple. It's very simple. You've been had by the priesthood. Get over it, and don't get angry. Get wise.
Okay.
You find out that I thought that was his dentures. No, he's a vampire. Duh. They like blood. Yes, they do. Literally, fiscally, metaphorically, and politically, they are vampires. Like for real, for real, for real.
Jakari Bill Bacaro asks, Dumb Diversus happened on 6/18/1493. Can you address that anniversary today? They said they would kill all the Saracens, and they are doing it too.
Of course, the Saracens is really another cover word for the Moors. What you see them doing, and this is why it's necessary for them to.
First of all, what was Dumb Diversus?
Dumb Diversus is one of the major bullas of the Church of Rome, i.e., the Roman bulla. So you're dealing with Intercatera Divina, Dumb Diversus, Romanus Pontifex, etc., Unum Sanctum, which is the major killer, as an example. And all of these are the major church bullas of Rome that have been used against the Asiatic nation, i.e., what you know as Africa and Asia, etc., which is also described not exactly correctly as allegedly the hybrid European hegemony, also tagged as white supremacy. All of these are for the most part, are both misnomers and misrepresentations. However, essentially, that is the operations of Unum Sanctum, which is a cover for all of them, including Dumb Diversus, etc. So whether they're dealing with
like decrees or
yes, they are, because you got to remember, the Pope of Rome takes the place of all things that represent light, all things that represent justice. This is why he's referred to as the vicar, or the vicar, meaning that it's a substitute for justice, it's a substitute for light, it's a substitute for Jesus, it's a substitute for all the prophets, it's a substitute for God. Thus, he is God at Midgard. And therefore, they take the position that they own the souls and the lives, physical and the soul of man, etc. Another reason I went to chapter 1, so you can look at that, so you can look at some keys that the prophet left for us to battle back on, so that many of you don't give up the fight, etc. But understand, essentially, in layman's terms, the Pope and the Roman Curia members, being soldiers for the popes of Rome and the bishopric, claim to be God of this world, God of this earth, and therefore claiming to own both the bodies and the souls of men, which is why all marriage certificates and birth certificates are actually bank bonds, etc. That's why. It's not because those instruments just happen to be what they are. That's why they are what they are, because they have claimed the lives and the souls of men. This is the reason why the corporate states always operatively go into people's estates, etc., and steal all of their finance and then put the heirs in debt, etc. As an example, when you see people, and particularly people of Asiatic African descent, as they pass form or transform, you notice that our communities generally stay pretty poor. It's because the agents of the corporate state always steals their estates so that there's no inheritance. If there's an inheritance, they will put a feudal tax upon the heirs, so that the heirs not only don't have an estate, but they're so burdened with a tithe that they have to pay the corporate state, thinking that the corporate state is their government, and it's actually Roman Curia members, in order to enforce Dumb Diversus. Because that's what that is. And because we're saying it, Don't think that the Revs don't know this, and that includes every one of your marching, praying, civil rights leader guys, all of whom do some research, were 32 and 33-degree Masons, and in secret had a Moorish fez, pretending they don't know that these people are Moors, while collecting their kickbacks set up by Lyndon Baines Johnson, back to Trump an issue, that after they assassinated Kennedy, for trying to bring constitutional principles back to bear after the coup d'etat, because all this stuff is absolutely connected, And so when you see them, making these young sisters get diabetes, strokes, and everything, they go deal with the pharmaceuticals because they got a minor cold, or they hurt their knee or something like that, and they secretly sterilize them or give them viruses, etc. Yes, they do. That's what they've been doing. All of that is dumb diverses. Tuskegee in experiment, dumb diverses. AIDS, dumb diverses. Corona, dumb diverses. That's what it is. Yes, you're correct. However, keep this in mind. As the people begin to see the light, or they begin to wake up to the energies of particularly being projected by Uranus, by the electrical energy of Uranus, pay attention to Uranus. I know we talk about Saturn. Yes, we do. Pay attention to Uranus. And keep in mind the electrical energy that Uranus is sending on this planet now. And if these demons can stand that electrical energy, more power to them. I doubt if they can stand it. The people will be waking up, not because we can aid, but we can't give, because it's all given from divine source anyway, that we call all universal law, Allah, etc. They're going to wake up anyway. Our mission of work is to try to make things a little bit more comfortable, that we need not see this suffering of humanity to the depths that it is. And much of it is because the people are just not aware. However, again, and I'm saying this again, the electrical charge that the planet that's coming from the planet Uranus, that's charging on this planet, everything and anyone, whether it's institution, whether it's being in the flesh, whether it's visitor from off-world, it pulls off all masks. No mask, no personality can hide anything anymore. So the wake up is both by help of those who would want to help, but it's also commanded by Uranus. That's part of Uranus's assignment. And I think a lot of times people are distracted by the other energies. Not that you shouldn't, not that you don't pay attention to them, but for those who would want to know a little bit more, pay attention to Uranus. Because I think because a lot of people are looking at the overall charts of people and the overall geographical charts and horoscopes that are made, not disrespecting, or not that they're ignoring Uranus, but they're kind of overlooking at this projected energy that's coming from Uranus. And maybe that's kind of well, because they're getting knocked upside the left side they ain't paid attention to, because they're so very, it's sort of like in as an example, in a game of sports, although we know sports are generally put there to distract people, where you have a star player, he or she is a star player on the team doing something, and then they bring another star player in too, and while they're trying to block one, the other one hits them, and vice versa. This is what's happening with Uranus and Saturn relative to energy projection and cashing all D checks right now. on the planet. So look at that from a metaphorical point of view, then look at the physicality and the manifestation of the civic activity that's taking place in the political platform. So sit back and watch the movie.
John Winbay says, what are your thoughts on North America having two countries, Canada and the United States? We have more than two.
Let's say this: when you really know what's going on, the United States is not a country. Never was. That's number one. From a political jurisdiction point of view, Canada, the corporation, and the U.S. corporation are actually one social political entity coming under the Circle Church and the Chancery, both being run by the Circle Church and Chancery and the Queen of England. Take that. See, once you're aware of things, I comprehend how people have different views based on what they've been told. But when you respect your intuitive mind and you do a little study, you see past there. That's why, when you see things for what they really are, a lot of people, get uncomfortable about that, but they're able to see that too if they want to. Most people don't want to see, and so they don't see because they don't want to see. But if you're talking about political jurisdictions, Canada and the U.S. corporation got the same international number. Take that as a key to what I'm saying to you. All of the front is a show to keep the masses